Hi, I'm Mark Cornelius from TeachMeToPlayChess.com, and today I have a video for you on piece values in the Learning to Play series. So let's get started. What are piece values all about? Well, we want to know what each piece is actually worth, and then we want to know what is the value of all the pieces given the position on the board at this time. So basically we're looking at actual value versus contextual value. This video will look at piece values. So getting started with the piece values, let's just define what this is all about. Basically, it's saying that each piece, each rook, each knight, each bishop, each queen, each pawn has a value. So each piece is worth X points, and I'll show you a grid now of how that breaks down. But basically, the higher the point value, the more valuable the piece is. So for example, valuable here means the more function it has, the more utility it has, the better movement and abilities it has on the board. Okay, so I need to mention something here, that assessing a position, meaning the board position currently in front of you, only on piece values is not reliable and should not be the only consideration. So you really should assess the position not just on the piece values themselves, but also on the strategic placement of the pieces, how the pieces all work together at that moment in time, how the position looks technically, and so forth. So basically, if there's one takeaway from this video, is that I want you to know what the piece values are worth on their own, but I also want you to assess the board position with all the pieces working together. So in a nutshell, I would favor quality over quantity. So let's show some examples of this. But before we do that, why do we want to learn about piece values? What's the whole point here? Well, there are four main ideas that I want you to kind of keep in mind. The first one is to win material due to an exchange that favors you, positionally or materially. So this means if you could get a queen for a rook, in most cases you would do that because the queen being worth 9 is much more valuable than the rook being worth 5. And again, I'll show you all these values in a minute here, but I'm just trying to give you an example. If you can improve your position, or if you can win material because you know that what you're exchanging is worth the exchange, then you need to do it. Number two, it kind of helps you know when you should attack and when you should wait. 3, it kind of helps you gauge where you are in the game at any point in time. And basically the rule here is if you're even on points, improve your position. So if you both have the same number of pieces and you both have a similar looking position, improve your position. Make your position stronger and better than your opponents. That's how you're going to win. Okay. 4, to assess the position basically for its quality and quantity. Again, you don't want to just go on piece values only. You want to look at everything working together. And all this will help you win more games, lose less, and then basically enjoy everything. So let's start by looking at the actual intrinsic or actual piece values that exist today. So the king has infinite value. We cannot put points on him. If you lose the king, you lose the game. So his value is infinite, or basically we just say he has no value, right? It's just immeasurable. Okay. The queen, which is a very powerful piece, can move up and down and diagonally until she runs out of squares. Excuse me. To move on is worth 9 points. She is after the king, she is the most highly valued piece for her abilities. Then come the rooks. Each side has 2 rooks, and these are each worth 5 points each. So what we could say is that 2 rooks are as good, if not a little bit better, than 1 queen, right? Because the 2 rooks combined are 10 points. The queen is worth 9. Again, it's depends on the position, but that's to give you a contextual idea. Bishops and knights, there are 2 of them each for each side. Each of those is worth 3 points. And something to keep in mind here is that in a closed position, a bishop is probably worth less than 3 points. And by closed, I mean he has no diagonals on which to move, or he's very limited. Whereas the knight may be able to jump around that closed position, so the knight in that case would probably be worth more than 3. But at face value and at the beginning of the game, each of these is worth 3 points each. They're considered about the same value. Pawns, there are 8 of them. Each one is worth a point at the beginning of the game. As the pawn goes advancing up the board, its value goes increasing. Why? because the pawn, when it reaches the seventh rank, the eighth rank, can basically promote itself to any other piece. And this is where it's no longer worth a point, it's worth a whole lot more. Okay? So, enough talk, let's actually look at some actual board positions. Two things that I want you to ask yourself over and over today, starting today and going forward, is what is the actual value of each piece on the board for both me and my opponent, so for both white and black. And then ask yourself, is quality or quantity the key decision driver? And what do I mean by this? Again, to reiterate, what are all your pieces worth when taken together as a whole versus individually, right? So your position working together is worth more than the sum of each individual piece. If you have for example, if you have a queen and a bishop lined up on a diagonal, that's a very strong position, and you could do a lot of damage on the other side of the board if you can have uninhibited access on that diagonal. That's just an example. Okay, so again, two questions to ask. What is the actual value of each piece on the board for my position and for my opponent, so you kind of know where you are materially? And then ask yourself, is quality or quantity the key decision driver? So let's look at a position. Here we have white that has three pawns, a king and a bishop, and black has just a king and a queen. So if you take black's position, total points are 9. White has 6 points. So here, in this position, from an intrinsic value, it's 9-6. Black should win, right? Black is up by 3 points or 3 pawns, basically. However, what I would ask you to look at carefully is that these 3 pawns here on B3, C2, and A2, these pawns are connected, and these pawns could easily march down the board if white can keep black from mating him. So what is at work here is that black's goal is to mate the king and to keep those pawns from promoting. And of course, white's goal here is to get one of those pawns all the way to the 8th rank to promote to a queen or a rook. I would say a queen probably. So black has a lot of work to do. He has to bring in his king to mate white. He can't do it with the queen alone. Not possible. So this is where context makes such a big difference, and white should give black a very tough battle here. Excuse me. So let's move ahead and look at another position. What is this position worth, and is quality or quantity the driver? Well, let's look at the net worth of the position. Black has a queen, bishop, and 3 pawns for 15 points. White has 3 pawns, a rook, and a knight for 11. So again, it looks like black here should have the upper hand, but not so fast. Look at the position and look carefully. Black's king cannot move off that F file. He cannot move at all because the rook on e1 controls his movement to the left side or the middle of the board. The black queen is hemmed in, cannot move. The bishop is kind of stuck on g7. It's stuck on the g7 h6 diagonal. If it moves to h6, white could take him. So the goal here is black needs to mobilize its troops and get its queen out and get its bishop in play. And again, I think white here can give black a very tough time. Black has to basically, break free and get his pieces moving. His f6 pawn is also hemmed in, can't go anywhere because that knight on f5 is keeping it from moving ahead, and there's nothing currently that can keep that knight from moving away. So black's next best move here would be to move the bishop to h8 and then get the queen out and so forth. So it's going to be a tough battle. It looks like black is ahead here, but in this current position, white actually has the upper hand, and white's goal here is to keep from getting mated and to get those pawns on a2, b3, and c3 moved up the board. So again, don't look at the position just on points, look at it from a contextual perspective. Let's look at one more. Again, the two questions to ask are, what is the position worth, and is quality or quantity the driver of my decisions? Here, again, we have black with a knight and a king, 3 points only. White has 3 pawns and a king, also 3. So here you'd say, okay, this position is even, but again, don't look at points only, here white actually has the advantage, and in fact the best black could hope for here is a draw, because the knight and king alone cannot mate. And again, white has 3 pawns. Even though the position is 3-3, all white has to do is promote one of those pawns up the board. It's going to be tough, but he can do it. I think here black would probably lose this game, because white should be able to get one of those in. So these are the things that I want you to look at. You know, it's good to know what the piece values are, but you also have to know what the context of the position is. So to see if anyone's been listening, let's have a quiz. So white is to move. Which position is better? So don't forget the questions to ask. What is the position worth for white and black? And does quality or quantity matter here? Now, I'm giving you a hint here that white is to move, and I need you to pause the video and see if you can answer the question, which position is better, and then come back. Okay? Alright, so let's break down white's position. Has 3 pawns and a bishop for a total of 6 points. Black has a bishop and knight and rook for a total of 11. 11-6 favors black without any question. You know, black should win this game. However, you probably maybe didn't miss this, maybe you did. If it was white's turn to move, that a7 pawn, which was worth 1 point, is actually worth a lot more than a point at that particular point in time. He can promote to a queen or a rook or a knight or a bishop, and of course now the position changes because he promotes to a queen, and now white has 14, black has 11, and now 14-11 favors white. White should win the game. So finally, to wrap up, I want you to apply these 2 questions to your next game. What is the board position worth right now for white and black? And is quality or quantity the driver of my actions, right? You're always aiming to improve your quality of your position. Quantity alone is not always sufficient. But of course, if you have enough firepower, you should be able to win. Keep these ideas in mind and do this after every move, and you're guaranteed to improve. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you with the next video. Thank you.